In a world full of uncertainties, the prophecy of the apocalypse stands out as a fascinating enigma, capable of evoking both fear and hope. Imagine a scenario where time seems to stop, and visions of a distant future unfold before our eyes. What is truly behind these enigmatic words? How do these ancient texts connect with the reality we live in today? Images of catastrophes, a new heaven and a new earth, echo through the generations. But do we truly understand what is at stake? While the pages of the Bible reveal symbols and metaphors, many wonder, are we prepared for what is to come? And what if all of this is not just a distant story, but an urgent call to action in the present? Each figure, each prophesied event, carries a powerful message. Curiosity awaits, and the answers are hidden in every verse. Prepare for a deep journey where ancient wisdom meets contemporary dilemmas. The apocalypse may be more than just a prediction. It might be an invitation to reflect on our role in this grand drama of life. When talking about the apocalypse, it's impossible to ignore the various interpretations that have emerged over the centuries. There are four main schools of thought that attempt to decipher this enigmatic book: futurist, preterist, idealist, and historicist. Each presents a unique view of the prophetic events and their implications. The futurist approach, for example, tends to see the prophecies as events yet to come, emphasizing a cataclysmic future and the second coming of Christ. The preterist, on the other hand, believes that many of the prophesied events have already occurred, primarily in the context of the Roman Empire. Conversely, the idealist approach views the apocalypse as a timeless allegory, representing the struggle between good and evil without a specific link to historical events. This perspective allows for a more flexible interpretation that can be applied to various situations throughout history. The historicist view considers the apocalypse as a continuous narrative reflecting the Church's struggle through the centuries, presenting a timeline that connects past, present, and future. These different interpretations not only shape the understanding of the text, but also influence how faith communities approach themes like hope, despair, and the role of divinity in history. The diversity of thoughts on the apocalypse reflects the complexity of the book itself and the richness of meanings it can offer. Thus, reading the apocalypse becomes an exercise in introspection and debate, where each school of thought brings forth relevant questions for contemporary life. The interpretation of the apocalypse can also generate conflicts between different denominations and religious groups. While some firmly adhere to a particular view, others may be drawn to the flexibility offered by another approach. This dynamic of interpretations enriches theological dialogue, but can also lead to divisions, especially in times of crisis when people seek answers to their fears and uncertainties. The apocalypse is a true kaleidoscope of symbols and images that captivate the imagination and provoke reflection. From the dreaded beasts to the seals, trumpets, and bowls, each symbol carries deep meaning and a message intertwined with the biblical and cultural context of the time. For example, the beasts often associated with evil represent not only oppressive forces of the era, but also the challenges the Church would face throughout history. The seals, on the other hand, symbolize revelation and judgment. Each broken seal brings forth significant events, revealing the unfolding of the divine plan. The trumpets, with their thunderous sounds, announce changes and calls to action, while the bowls represent God's wrath poured out upon the earth. This rich tapestry of images is not merely decorative, it serves as a powerful narrative tool that conveys spiritual and moral truths. Interpreting these symbols is no simple task. Often, they are rooted in traditions and cultural references that might escape modern understanding. For instance, references to numbers like the infamous 666 carry meanings that were evident to early readers but may cause confusion today. Thus, studying the symbolism in the Apocalypse requires careful and contextualized analysis. The symbolism of the Apocalypse can also be seen as a form of resistance. In a time of persecution and oppression, the powerful and often terrifying images offer hope and encouragement. They remind believers that, despite hardships, there is a sovereign God who controls history, and that, in the end, victory belongs to Him. This hope permeates the pages of the Apocalypse, providing comfort amidst chaos. The figure of Jesus Christ in the Apocalypse is of utmost importance and is filled with profound meanings. He is presented under various titles, such as the Lamb and the King of Kings, each revealing a different aspect of his nature and mission. The Lamb, for example, symbolizes sacrifice and redemption, referring to his death on the cross and the promise of salvation for humanity. This image resonates with Christian hope, reminding believers that despite suffering, there is a path to redemption. In addition to the Lamb, Jesus is described as the King of Kings, an image that evokes power and authority. This description emphasizes Christ's sovereignty over all nations and kingdoms of the earth. In a context where the church faced persecutions and challenges, this representation served as a powerful reminder that, in the end, justice will prevail and Christ will reign eternally. The duality of Christ's nature, both as Lamb and King, is a fascinating aspect of the Apocalypse. It encapsulates the essence of the Christian message, which combines love and justice, mercy and judgment. This multifaceted understanding of Jesus provides believers with a solid foundation to face life's adversities, knowing they are protected by Christ's redeeming love while awaiting the fulfillment of His promises. Jesus' role in the Apocalypse is not limited to the past. It also projects a future of hope. The promise of His return and the restoration of all things are central themes that permeate the book. This eschatological hope is vital for the Christian faith, offering comfort in times of tribulation and a vision of a glorious future where justice and peace will reign. The messages addressed to the 7 churches of Asia Minor, found at the beginning of the Apocalypse, are a focal point that reveals much about the situation of the early church. Each of these communities faced unique challenges, from external persecutions to internal issues of morality and faith. Imagine the scene: a small church gathered in a house, listening to the reading of a letter that brings both comfort and warnings. It's almost as if each member is having a direct conversation with Jesus Himself. For example, the Church of Ephesus is praised for its works, but also warned about the loss of its first love. This resonates, doesn't it? How often do contemporary communities find themselves so busy with activities that they forget the fundamental purpose of their love for Christ? This message is a powerful reminder for the faithful to return to their first love, reinforcing the idea that spiritual passion should not be neglected amidst obligations. Regarding the Church of Pergamum, the situation is more complex. This place is described as where Satan has his throne, and cultural and moral influences are eroding the faith of Christians. Here, the struggle against conforming to culture is a relevant theme that echoes today. The message to Pergamum highlights the importance of remaining steadfast, even when external pressures are intense. It makes us reflect on how easy it is to compromise our beliefs in a world that values acceptance over truth. Laodicea, on the other hand, is the lukewarm church, and its critique becomes an undeniable warning. Self-sufficiency and lack of spiritual perception are described bluntly. What about communities that, in their quest for comfort and prosperity, end up forgetting the true purpose of their faith? The message to Laodicea invites self-analysis and a search for a deeper spirituality. It is a call to awaken to the reality of faith, which should not be just a label, but an authentic living experience. Biblical eschatology is a fascinating and complex subject, involving concepts that spark both curiosity and debate. The end times is a phrase that carries a mix of hope and fear, and the Apocalypse offers us a rich vision of what this means. Throughout history, many schools of thought have emerged, trying to decipher the signs and events that precede the conclusion of human history as depicted in the Bible. One of the most intriguing aspects of this discussion is the final judgment. The idea that we will all be called to account for our actions can be frightening, but also deeply motivating. It serves as a reminder that our choices have consequences and that a greater justice is at play. The Apocalypse paints a vivid picture of this solemn moment, where the righteous and the wicked are separated, prompting us to reflect on how we are living our lives and the legacy we're leaving behind. Moreover, the New Jerusalem, mentioned in the final visions of the Apocalypse, is a source of hope for many. The image of a perfect city where there is no pain, suffering, or death resonates with the human quest for an ideal place. For many, this promise is a foundation of faith and an incentive to persevere through difficulties. Thinking about the New Jerusalem leads us to consider what we truly value and how our lives can reflect this hope. The concept of a new heaven and a new earth is also fundamental in eschatology. It points to the renewal of all creation, not just an escape from the current world. This idea challenges us to think about our role as stewards of the planet and how our actions impact not just our lives, but the world around us. How can we live in a way that reflects this hope of renewal? This question resonates strongly in times of environmental and social crisis. Eschatology is not just about future events, but also about how we live in the present. The promises of the Apocalypse encourage us to live with purpose, seeking justice and mercy in our daily interactions. Thus, the eschatological message becomes a source of personal and communal transformation, reminding us that even in the face of uncertainty, there is a hope that transcends time and history. When discussing the cultural and theological impact of the Apocalypse, it is impossible to ignore its role in shaping various artistic expressions throughout the centuries. Since the Middle Ages, artists have delved into the vivid and symbolic images of the book, creating works that capture both the terror and hope contained in the prophecies. Renaissance paintings, such as those by Bosch and Michelangelo, are clear examples of how these apocalyptic visions influenced art, depicting scenes of final judgment and redemption with impressive detail. The symbols of the Apocalypse, like the beast and angels, have become icons that transcend religious literature, permeating popular culture. Literature has also not been immune to apocalyptic influence. Throughout history, writers have adopted themes from the Apocalypse to explore existential, moral, and social issues. Authors like Dante in the Divine Comedy, and more recently, C.S. Lewis in The Last Battle, have incorporated apocalyptic elements into their narratives, reflecting on the struggle between good and evil. These works not only reinterpret the symbols of the apocalypse, but also invite us to reflect on our own roles in history and spiritual struggle. It is fascinating how such an ancient text still resonates with contemporary concerns. In the realm of music, references to the apocalypse are equally abundant. Classical and contemporary composers have used apocalyptic themes to create works that evoke deep emotions. Mahler's famous Symphony No. 2, known as The Resurrection, is an example where the idea of redemption and resurrection is explored in a grand manner. Additionally, rock and metal bands frequently allude to the apocalypse, using its imagery to create lyrics about struggle and transformation. This intersection between music and the apocalypse reveals how the book's message continues to inspire and provoke. The theological impact of the apocalypse is equally significant. Over the centuries, various religious traditions have adopted its messages as fundamental to understanding salvation and divine judgment. Theologians have debated its implications, discussing the role that prophecies play in the lives of believers. The hope of redemption and the expectation of a new heaven and a new earth, as promised in the apocalypse, continue to be pillars of Christian faith. These beliefs shape not only individual spirituality, but also the actions of religious communities in the world. Beyond religious traditions, the apocalypse has also influenced social and political movements. Groups throughout history, inspired by its prophecies, have mobilized in pursuit of social transformation or in response to crises. The idea of a new world is often used as a metaphor for radical changes in society. This interpretation, which seeks to apply the teachings of the apocalypse to modern contexts, demonstrates the text's ongoing relevance, showing that its lessons are not just for the future, but also for the present. Thus, the influence of the apocalypse extends across various spheres of culture and theology, revealing the depth and complexity of its messages. Art, literature, music, and theology intertwine, creating a rich cultural fabric that continues to evolve. The Book of Revelation, with its powerful images and challenging prophecies, remains an endless source of inspiration and reflection, shaping both religious thought and cultural production. As we look at the prophecies of the apocalypse, we are invited to reflect on what it truly means to live in times of uncertainty. The Bible presents us not just with an end, but with renewed hope, a call to vigilance and faith. Have you ever stopped to consider the importance of being prepared for what is to come? Every symbol, every message, is like a map that guides us through the storm. And what about the role each of us plays in this grand story? Do you see yourself as part of this divine plan? As we await the fulfillment of these promises, it is essential to cultivate hope and love. After all, the apocalypse is not just about destruction, but about the victory of good over evil. What do you do to connect with this message of hope? Why not share your reflections in the comments? Let's explore these questions together and understand how we can apply the teachings of the apocalypse in our daily lives. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the upcoming videos in this incredible journey through the Word of God. After all, every biblical story has the power to transform lives. What will come next? Don't go away. Click on the next video that's appearing on the screen and continue this journey with us.